So we have some information today from the developers of Hell Let Loose, information regarding future work for Hell Let Loose, including reworking the British. And we'll start with the juicy part, the British rework. So first off, the Bren gun. It's getting a bipod. It may also change which role the weapon fits in, because currently you can use it as the machine gunner or the automatic rifleman. I think the level 9 assault kit gets it as well, but they may change this, but they will be tested. The British Thompson is also in the works, the 1928A1. This had the foregrip and the drum magazine to it. That'd be awesome to get into the game. The SMLE, which is the #1 Mark III rifle, that's also coming in. That's another bolt action rifle. A new sniper rifle's coming in. The #4 Mark I, which is the sort of standard rifle, I guess you could say. That's getting a scope instead of the P14. And we're getting a new Sten, the Sten Mark V. Another piece of equipment is coming called the Gammon Bomb, which is an explode on impact grenade. So that'd be cool to come in, and it will help to deal with lightly armored vehicles. Now, one of the plans for Cover 6 or Team 17 when they took over development of Hell Let Loose was to make the game historically accurate, which included weapons, equipment, and armor. And for the British, they've said they're going to do specific pieces of armor specifically for North Africa and Driel. So for North Africa, they're going to put in the Churchill Mark III, and for European-based maps, because the British will get more maps, will be the Churchill Mark VII. Also, the M3 Stuart will be coming to the British. But in terms of adding medium armor for North Africa, they've got a few different tanks they can look at. So there's a vote open at the minute. I'll try to remember to include the link in the description and the pinned comment. But you can vote between the Crusader Mark III, the Valentine Mark II, or the Matilda II. So choose which out of these 3 tanks you want most for North Africa. We also get a little look at the North African uniforms, and really these are something that should have been in the British update day 1. So it is a little disappointing to see that these are being made just now. Not that they were already being made and they just weren't ready yet, but we get a sneak peek at the British uniform and the German uniform, and they are looking quite nice. They are also going to be looking at the Firefly tank and maybe look to change how this currently works. And from a quote from Matt, who's the studio creative director, it's an interesting one with Hell Let Loose, because of Hell Let Loose classes, it's different types of armor. You know, the Firefly historically is fundamentally the same chassis that's, for want of a better word, as a normal Sherman with a 75mm gun. It just has an almighty 17-pounder on it. So I'm going to look into this, especially when we do the Churchill. I'm going to look into the different game mechanic armor values of Hell Let Loose and how they work in relation to how they worked in World War II. So hopefully this will feed into a bigger rework in tanks in Hell Let Loose, but I'm not too sure. Now that is it for the British rework, but we do have some more information on other systems that they want to look at and change the game. First off is one of the worst gameplay loops in the game, which is recon and artillery. And I say it's one of the worst because if you play as recon, you're pretty much expected to camp the enemy artillery so they can't rain death and destruction down on all your troops. It's extremely boring. And I've called for a rework of this system for a long time, and I know many other players have as well, so it's good that they are looking at it. What they're looking at doing is either bringing in mortar teams, putting artillery as a commander ability, or bringing in self-propelled artillery pieces, which are pretty much drivable artillery vehicles, pretty much. Now, I like all 3 ideas, but for the self-propelled artillery, I don't think the Hell Let Loose maps are big enough for this. A lot of the maps, you know, they don't have a lot of variation in their height. So I think if you get one good sightline, you could probably nearly take out an artillery piece from an extreme distance in a normal tank. I just don't think they're going to be useful enough. In terms of turning it into a commander ability, yeah, absolutely. Why not? You already have a bomb and run. Just put an artillery as like a wider impact that's less accurate, but still really useful. And mortar teams, yes, you could put a mortar team in with the commander ability. You will just have to probably create a new squad type, because we have infantry, armor, and recon create a mortar section, so you can only have maybe 1 or 2 mortar teams. Of course, test this to see what works best, because you don't want so much indirect fire going into certain areas where it's just a nightmare to play. You need to balance it just right. They're looking at changing the node system, and yeah, I've got a video coming out soon talking briefly about the nodes amongst other things. And what they're looking at is probably reverting back to how the nodes used to work, where the further you built them up the map, like closer to the enemy's HQ, the more resources you generated. They haven't specifically said that in the dev brief, but they have said they're looking at the location of node placement having an impact on them. I honestly think now, probably just get rid of nodes. Just put resources, generating a standard amount. I think that'd be fine. I don't think the game will lose a lot of depth or anything if you just remove nodes. I don't think that'll be impacted at all. I think even if you remove nodes, remove resources completely, and then just put cooldowns on all the commander abilities. That's a bit of a controversial opinion. Let me know what you think of that. Maybe they could increase cooldowns for certain abilities so they can't get spammed too much. But if you have a team that just builds nodes straight away and they're fine, then you will always have like a ton of resources that you'll probably never run out of. So just maybe get rid of resources and have cooldown. They're also looking at potentially bringing in a new type of garrison. Now currently you can say we've got the normal garrison, the half-tracks, and airheads. I mean, airheads are a type of garrison. They disappear after a certain amount of time, but the entire team can use them. This isn't something that will 100% go into the game. It's just something they're looking at doing, because at the moment, if you're a seasoned player for Hell Let Loose, you'll pretty much be able to accurately guess where garrisons are, and they want to do something to try and change things up a bit. They're also looking at the progression system and loadouts, potentially bringing in new loadouts for different forces for certain maps, and being able to use certain systems to get XP for other roles. I think really they should just really reduce the amount of XP you need to get to unlock extra loadouts. Some of the later loadouts are really good, like the Assault level 9 where you get the satchel. I mainly use the Grenadier one, which I think is rank 6, because you just get like 4 grenades and 2 or 3 smoke grenades. I really like using that one. But I don't think if more players had access to more loadouts, there would be anything wrong with the game. Just reduce the amount of XP people need. Just why not? Or make it so if you're playing a role that you've maxed out its rank, you can choose a specific role for your XP to be filtered down into. The only class I've maxed out is Officer, and if I was playing Officer, maybe I could choose to assign all my XP to Support, for example. Something like that would be good. So they are looking at expanding tanks a bit. One of the things they're prototyping at the minute is being able to open a hatch so the tank commander can pop out from the top. Maybe even the driver can poke his head up a little bit, while also looking at bringing in a flamethrower tank and smoke dispensers. Now, I think all of that generally sounds good, but I think popping out from a hatch, I don't see the value in it. I see the value in it from like people wanting to roleplay, but why? Why would you pop out from the hatch, especially if you're a tank commander, when you can look all the way around you anyway? It will just show you out, on top of the tank, so people can just easily kill you. I don't see the value it adds into the game. If you're a tank player and you really want this, let me know why in the comments below, because, well, as an infantry player, I don't get it. All it says to me is I can get an easy kill at someone. So let me know why you want to be able to pop out of their tank hatch. The devs also want to support their clans in the tournaments and leagues and other stuff that's going on, which is really good. But there's something they say in here which I don't think is quite right. There's a lot to consider when it comes to the idea of Hell Let Loose being a viable esports title. Honestly, no. Don't think of Hell Let Loose as esports or trying to make it esports at all. Esports will never work for Hell Let Loose, even if you want to make a huge tournament, because how can you make Hell Let Loose as an esport titles financially viable when you have 50v50 and you have a prize pool that would generally go to maybe the clan and they want to split it out to their people, how can you have a big enough pot that'll be like enough money for 50 people? They just wouldn't. Don't go down like trying to make it into an esports. Just keep working on the game, listen to the competitive community when they find balancing issues and stuff like that. Don't try to turn this into something it's not. And yeah, support these tournaments, support these clans. You have a Twitch channel, Team 17, that has a Twitch channel. Post stuff on there. Give big shout outs to the tournaments that are going on. Help the comp scene expand. Just don't look at it as esports. There's some more information on a console server browser. I know console players really want this, but they're saying it's extremely tricky. The architecture and how everything's built behind the scenes, it's something that they may not be able to do, or something that will take an extreme amount of work to do. What they're looking at to help this is put a vote map feature into the console versions. Yep, absolutely do that. Just absolutely do that. Another solution they could do is to have matchmaking filters. So you click on matchmaking or enter a game or whatever it is, but then it comes up with filters to say, do you want to play on Soviet based maps, American maps? Do you want to not play on X map or this map? Something like that. That'll help people jump into certain maps they haven't played. I know there's going to be some console players out there that have never been able to play the British maps, and I bet you there's still some people that have never played the Soviet maps. Put some filters in for matchmaking. But what about the future for Hell Let Loose? Well, now they're saying that there is a new roadmap in the works, and I'm pretty sure we all knew that as soon as they decided to delay update 15, that roadmap was thrown out the window. But now we have confirmation that, yeah, a new roadmap is in the works. It would be good to get confirmation on what's happening with the objective game mode, because if the objective game mode and the map were fine and worked fine, why hasn't it been released? Was that new mode and the map buggy? Just, yeah, what's going on? Just let us know what's going on with that objective mode. Is it still planned to come into the game or not? Just give us that confirmation. We also have confirmation of a new 50v50 map called Mortain, but we have no screenshots or anything yet. Now, there was a battle that happened in and around Mortain in World War II, just after D-Day, so it's probably going to be based around that. They're also looking at bringing back Dive to Prone, but in a reworked way. Now, for me, I think Dive to Prone was fine, but they did need to adjust it a little bit. One of the things they had to do was when you dive to the ground, they should have added in some delay for you to start shooting, and a longer delay before you could get back up again. I think if they did that, and also made sure you couldn't get into any dodgy positions that you shouldn't be able to by using Dive to Prone, then it would be fine. There is more information available in the developer brief about feedback for PTE 14.3. I'll try to remember to put it in the description so you guys can click on it and read about that feedback. Some good feedback there and plans for what they want to do with it. So stay tuned to the channel for more Hell Let Loose information. As soon as I can get my hands on some, I'll give it to you guys. Give the video a like if you liked it, dislike if you didn't. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.